Alrighty, let's go ahead and get some music going. Lovely stuff. So, hi there everyone. Hopefully you're having yourself a nice little day. Tonight, we are painting some Kasrkins, as you can probably guess from the thing. You can probably hear a little bit of interference in the microphone. Whoop. Accidentally knocked some stuff over, but either way, doesn't matter that much. So, hi there. Yeah. Just gonna roll up my sleeves. I've got my glove on, and we're picking a few paints. So tonight, Death World Forest, Lauren Forest, a little bit of Baneblade Brown, and haven't put it in a dropper bottle yet, but a little bit of Kasrkin flesh. So let's get our wet palette sorted a little bit. Now, get a drop of, let's go for 2 whole drops. 2 drops of Death World Forest, and we'll see how far that goes. Then we've got a little bit of Lauren Forest. We'll get 2 drops of it onto our palette. There we go. 2 drops of it. We're going to use 1 drop of Baneblade Brown. So 1 drop. Actually, no. You know what? 2. There we go. Yep, there we go. 2 whole drops. And that's that. Now, we need a little bit of Kasrkin flesh as well. Let's get this popped out. Actually, our TikTok chat, and we'll bring that over to the side. So, we have a little bit of Kasrkin flesh to pop onto our wet palette. No. That's our palette loaded, so we'll figure out exactly what we're going to do with each individual color in just a wee second. Now, make sure we get that done, but more importantly than that, we have our piece specifically for grabbing and drying off our brush. So, this here little fella is primed currently, just using old Mechanica Standard Grey. So we're going to load our brush with a good bit of it, and we're going to sort of dab it on, so we're actually almost stippling rather than brushing for our first base, just because it really gets down into those crevices and everything. That's why I'm using my sacrificial brush here. So just dab it all on, and you'll kind of see a little bit about what goes on with it. A little bit more, just teensy wee taste, and we'll go onto the back end of it. Start pushing this down in on everything. And we're trying to push this down into all the little bits. You may notice we haven't actually assembled this model fully yet, and you would be correct in noticing that, just for the fact that we're going to try, this is my first time where I'm trying like a sub-assembly, and I'm going to assemble it, like paint a few bits and assemble as we go, sort of. So, a little bit more of a brush along there. And you can see kind of, let's change the focus on it so it's a little bit clearer, a little bit nicer looking this way, I suppose. So you can see kind of how he's coming along. Get his other leg done. Now, these here, you're probably sitting thinking it's like, that looks slightly more liquid, more flowy than your version, and you would be correct in that, because this here actually has been thinned down a bit in order to transpose it into my dropper bottle. It's my first time ever moving stuff across to dropper bottles, and I figured, yeah, let's give it a go, see what it's like. Tiny bit more onto there. Get these little bits down into the gaps and the crevices and everything. I'm going to try and really make sure we get a good coverage across this guy. Now, he does have a rock that he's standing on, so that's maybe going to be a really good opportunity for us to try and paint some stuff onto it later on down the line. Maybe we'll end up turning it into like a lichen sort of color. But at the moment, a little bit more onto some of the bits, just to make sure there's a good one. I don't think we need to worry too much about grey sort of tones showing through on the armour, because as you can see when you look at him, the green, it's a good wee sort of base coat green. So we'll, in between our models, go ahead and give our brush a nice good washing. And you can probably hear that I'm trying to go a little bit hard at some of that, because this here old sacrificial brush has unfortunately seen many times where it's not been, yeah, this is the sacrificial. It's specifically for sacrificing this brush. So let's make sure we just load a good bit of paint onto it, and we're just gonna paint it, just absolutely slather the model, but with a thin coat. We're slathering with a thin coat, which I guess is not the same as slathering. And it's all to try and make sure we're working with a nice base color. So you can see here, good sort of consistent coloring going on to it. But also a little bit where, you know, sometimes it's more pronounced at one bit than it is at another, which is perfectly fine by me. Our main concern is, can we paint this in a nice, easy little timeline? So here is, get down into some of these crevices a little bit. Try and show it more towards the camera so you can kind of see where we are. Now, let's grab the head because it should have dried a little bit, and we'll throw some of this here onto the boots and everything. And lovely. There we go. That is 2 base coated. Oh boy. Actually, we could use a little bit more onto his side here. Just on this here side. So that's 2 ones done. And what we're going to do is we're going to actually test and see just how we can do with the stippling or the, what do you call it here? Camouflage. So we're going to take a brush that I don't care about, one of my surpluses in fact. And where, pray tell, did I put the surpluses? Looking around at my hobby desk, I should be a little bit more organized than I am. Nope, it's not up there. Here, surplus, surplus, surplus. Goodness me, I am silly. Just overlooking the entire thing. Probably looked past it multiple times. Yes, I had. Yes, I had. So, this is a brand new brush that cost me very little in the ways of anything. I'm going to load some paint onto the bristles here. And we're going to try, let's see if we can, and boom, zoom in. We're going to try little scores. So we pop this on and see. So I'm still getting the hang of how to do fine lines and all of that kind of stuff. Don't know if you can even really kind of see what's going on with it a little bit. So, just trying to do little faint splotches here and there on the armor. Very faint, very few of them in the green until we start getting more browns involved. A little bit more of this. And as this is drying, it's actually darkening a bit, which is a very interesting sort of effect on it. So we want some of the stuff to remain largely untouched. Other bits we want to have a different sort of effect too. So let's see, if we bring the brightness down, Where's my brightness control? Here we go. You maybe can't even necessarily make out that much difference on this camera currently. You can see little bits of it, but those are just very, very faint bits. So let's dry the brush off nicely, and we're going to swap over and we're going to get a little bit of our Kasrkin flesh. So this here is maybe going to be a little bit easier for you to make out. And we're going to try different sort of angles for the brush coming down onto it, because that's what we want. But you can see with it, we want to avoid doing anything on some of the pieces here, you might notice. Oh, I have updates to my Creative Cloud apparently. Now, a little bit more. We'll soak up a little bit more onto our brush here. Now, I do want to ensure some of the pieces look a little bit more sort of patterned, so you can kind of see what I'm going for here. Very faint, very fine, and we're just going for slight little dabs on bits here or there. Let's get a bit there, and we'll try and drag it up the way. And that, like that, is a not bad little splodge, if I do say so myself. And let's get these here. A little bit more of this loaded onto our brush. And I think this guy's camouflage looks reasonably nice. So, let's show. So, from one color, we now have one color and the brown, which is giving this here sort of thing. So let's clean our brush off. We need to now add a lighter brown. So, for our lighter brown, we are going for a little bit of the Baneblade brown. And we're going to add this here just in different sort of splotchy points around. A little bit onto there. Let's get some stroked across some of the bits there. A little bit more loaded onto our bristles here. And just try and get our little int pieces touched on here. And onto here. So, notice here, you can see as we're applying it, the little bits where we're sort of accenting with the different paints, and what we're going to do as our other little bit is maybe we need a little bit of a contrast wash. So that might be an idea for something we can do. Let's go ahead and grab some of this. Now, for our contrast, what contrast would you possibly put over a sort of woodland camo effect? Well, I have an idea. Why would you not use, or maybe we go for a shade. No, we're gonna go for it. Give it a good shake. Our Militarum Green. So let's get 1 drop, 2 drops onto our palette. We are then going to thin it down with 2 drops of contrast medium. Maybe 3 drops. Yep, 3 drops. So when I take these and mix it together, it should make a very thin Militarum Green. So yeah, there we go. Let's try and press as much off as we can, and we'll give this brush a good rinse off. So let's get another brush that we can load up nice thick amount onto for our contrast. Whoop. There we go. So, Militarum Green. We're gonna get a good chunk of this on, and we're going to dab this over the top of everything. And this will hopefully accent out the bits we have done. So another little bit, and we'll dab that on. So we're looking about 2:3 ratio for Militarum Green. And we still, as you can see, still preserved the camouflage pattern that there was. So we'll give the brush a rinse off, and maybe to darken it, we'll also get a couple of drops of, which shade? We're gonna go for Biltan Green because it's nice and dark. Let's get a couple of drops of that there added up on this end of the palette. One more drop onto, yep, there we go. And lovely. Ooh, pop the air bubble. Load a good amount onto our brush, and we're going for trying to wash this over everything we possibly can. So here we go. And right, so here is our camouflage guy. You can see we've got the reasonably clean camouflage looking actually. I'm pretty happy with that as far as camos go. Yeah, not bad. So, what we need to do is we need to get, let's make sure we keep this out of the way actually if we can help it. Let's get some Kasrkin flesh. Or do we go for, no, not Kasrkin flesh. Which one are we looking? Let's go for Kasrkin or Kislev. For this guy, we're going to go for Kislev. Kislev flesh. That's the shade we're going to use for his skin tone. So, a little bit of this here. Take some of this. Ooh. Make sure it's nicely mixed. There we go. You can hear the ball moving. So that means stuff is at least fluid enough. So, drop that onto the palette. Dry off this brush. And now, for this here guy, this is going to be a tricky-ish one. Let's make sure we load a good little bit onto here. Circle it around. So there we go, half the face done. The other side, start on it. So let's make sure, put a little bit onto there. Okay, we require another teensy tiny touch of the pigment. Got thinned out a little too much there, a little too much separation, and we'll try and make sure we get his whole face done. So just trying to make sure I get over the top of all the green. And lovely. I think that there does a decent job of showing that. Now, so the helmet, we want all to be one shade. So for it, we are going to go for Lauren Forest. And we just need to try and make sure we get a good coverage on the helmet. We can edge highlight it later on.
Am I alive yet?
Very interesting question to be asked by a robotic voice. Am I alive yet? So there we go on his helmet. You can see different coloration to it. If try and get the top bit done and the back. And here we go. Now, that's that helmet bit done. So, the other things, little insignia on his helmet we should do. So let's get a little bit of Kasrkin flesh, and we're going to paint this just nice and low down. There's one side of it. Make sure we get this other side. A little bit more down onto our brush. And make sure we do the skull. So, there you go. You can kind of see, yep. Skull. Try and make sure we get the little bits down into the recesses. Lovely. We got that side and we've got that side. So, there's his little helmet bit done. That's that side done. Now, the other bit we want to do in brown is his gas mask filters. So let's make sure we get these done. We're going to do these just like this. A little bit more onto the brush, and you can see where we're coming at it from the angles. Ooh, a little bit more. Aha! So there's one of those. Now we'll grab a little bit of this here on this side, and we're going across here. Make sure we do the whole filter. We're not going to do the entire mask, however, because at that point, having too much of one color wouldn't look very consistent with camouflage, which is why we've got the mask there with the brown filters, and why when you look at his armor and everything, it's not a tremendous amount done with it, but it's got some of that camo-ishness to it. So a little bit more of this. And let's get some Lauren Forest loaded onto the brush. For that, we're going to try and see whether we can just use it to sort of edge highlight, I guess. So this here is my first attempt at like edge highlighting. Hopefully, I'm not butchering it. So there's that little bit. Just try and get around sort of the plating on the pectorals. Okay, so I think it looks kind of like you can see a bit of the thing going on, like the edge highlighting. Maybe what we need to do actually, let's switch the photography mode. So at this point, that should be on shutter speed or something now. We lift this out of here, will it help? And the blue glove is on, kind of helps a little bit. I just wish we had a way we could more consistently control exposure levels while it's on the Canon camera thing. So, let's do the trim of his cloak. And we're going to do it entirely in Lothern Forest. Or not Lothern Forest, Lauren Forest. So here we go, we're getting a little bit done. God, I love this tune. So, when you look at the lining of his coat now, a little trim at the bottom bit. It's not actually got the same thing going on as it did before. And let's also make sure his leg pads don't either. His knee pads are all going to be done in Lauren Forest. So a little bit of this here, and we brush it over like this, and we'll flip it and do the opposite and push it towards this way. So his knee pads are done in a slightly different color, but evidently manual settings are just too dark for that, although okay, so I guess we're fine on this sort of coloration. Right. Now we have the obvious thing of boots. So maybe we have a darker green we can use. We do indeed. We're going to use a little bit of wag flesh. And this is going to serve as our boot coloring. And oh me, oh my, the difference between wag flesh and that is quite substantial. So that's that bit ready. And now we're going to take our wider brush that we've been using for a few things, and we're going to set it up for doing the boots. So we're also at the same time doing his little sort of, they're not quite sabatons or something, are they? I don't remember. But we are trying to make sure we get good dark coverage across the boots here. And you can see why this here is a little bit on the trickier side to do. So load a little bit more onto here. So there we go, there's one boot done. And you can see the difference between those two boots. Which is quite a noticeable difference. Let's try and get a good brush over all of these bits. And yep, gonna need a little bit more onto the brush here. So let's go at it from this angle then. And try and make sure we get good coverage going both across and down. So this here, as you can see, we were just slightly shy of what we needed. So here we go. Put that on. Good firm wash of the brush. And now we just do that. A little bit more on our brush here. And we can just wash this over like this. Because it almost is coming out as a wash. It's very fluid off of the wet palette. Ah, that'll be why. I guess I didn't dry the bristles properly enough. I feel like we've probably got a lot of the water, not much of the pigment. That definitely appears to be what has happened. So, still, if we look at it, there we go. Hey, MTB. MTB boosted. I have probably mispronounced that horribly. I am doing exceptionally well today. How are you? How has your Wednesday been? How has your week been? How has everything been, you know? How are you going? Hopefully you're having a nice chill week. Hopefully, even more importantly, you're not currently sat in an office or sat in your work. And if you are sat in your work, then at that point, fair dues. Thank you for tuning in during your work time. Or, alternatively, happy home time. So we're just at the minute trying to do a little bit more to our Kasrkins. So ironically, actually, I did a test paint thing on Saturday, I want to say. Saturday, I did a test paint where I was like, okay, I think I've done a pretty good job of this here. Not realizing that I think today's one, this here guy, I've painted him with a better camo job than I did this guy. Because this guy's, it's a little too mucky, you know, a little bit too mucky. Whereas this guy's, it looks more believable as a camouflage. You know, this was just me dabbing and stippling and trying to figure out what the hell was going on. But I don't like it as much as I like this guy's. I think he's better. So yeah, one of the things that I'm not looking forward to doing now, however, though, is I have the most wonderful job on the planet to try to achieve. Oh fuck. This isn't gonna go well. I know for a fact it's not, because it never goes well for me. No, at least, at the very least, we have a very nice fine pointed brush we can use. But let's see if you can guess what I have to do now based on the colors. So, Corax white, and I'm not going for a straight black, I'm going for Storm Vermin fur. What do you reckon those colors would be used if I said there's not much of them that gets used? Well, there shouldn't be, but undoubtedly there will end up being a significant amount done. A gun? Good guess. It is not a gun that we're doing today. We are doing the horrible thing on faces. The thing I dislike the most. The eyes. Never fun trying to paint on the eyes, but it's a challenge, to say the least. I mean, I'm just not very good at it. I have had a couple of times where I've had moderate successes. Like, I guess if we look at this guy here, how far in can I zoom? Whoop. Can't really see because of the brightness of the light. Let's see if we can bring it down. Will that increase the contrast? You can kind of see that he's got the eyes on. But focusing ring. So we've got that done, and we can get our little bit of Storm Vermin fur. So a little bit of this here. I'm just going to pop it onto our wet palette there as well. Then we're just going to wash this brush off, because this brush, I like it. It's a nice brush. Now, take our teeny tiny brush and ooh, that is a very faint amount of, no, it was just a little dried bit of the pigment. So we have this here, tiny, fine little amount, you can see. and we're just trying to dab on and paint his eyes. So that's the whites of his eyes done. You can see the faint little bit of contrast. Can't talk much, you're on your shift. Hey, that is not a bother at all. Hopefully you're having yourself a wonderful shift. If you're working on a store, then at that point, enjoy your time in the store. If you're working in any form of healthcare service, then at that point, major fucking props to you. Always important to see people working in those fields. I'm just going to try to... This is where we're going to end up. Right. We got one eyelid, or not quite eyelid. That's one eye done, and the other. There we go. Oh boy, this is not working at all. Oh boy. I think we made his pupils a little too dilated. We need to add a little bit more white into the mix. Yeah. That is going to be our thing that we try. So, a little bit more here, a little bit more white on. Lovely. Okay, we gotta absorb some of this white back out, actually. And try and layer on a little bit of the flesh tone where we messed up. We're just gonna try and redraw his general eye shape. And okay, I think it's not a horrendous version of an eye. Refocus. You can see the general shape of it and everything. Yeah. Okay. Not bad. Hey. We feckin' did it. So what I'm going to do as a little thing, I'm actually going to take just faint little bit of the brown Kasrkin flesh, going to mix it with just the faintest little bit of that, and a teeny tiny little dab of grey. So these here, when we combine them together, will give us a darker shade, which we're going to use to try and draw his lips. We want his lips to be slightly like, you know, your lips. There is a slightly different coloration to them. They're not the same as the rest of your face. So let's get this here. And voila. Aha. Apologies, forgot to refocus, but you can actually see there a slight difference in colouring for his lips. Which I guess, if we bring our mount down and we zoom out, let's angle this over and let's start looking over at this stuff. Oh no, too low down. Right, come on. So, yeah, that's nice enough. He's got reasonably angry looking eyes. He's got decent looking lips, if I do say so myself. He's got that going for him. So, lovely. A little bit of our thinned down Militarum green, which we're going to use as a wash over his boots. It's very much thinned down, and that will help us a good bit. Because, as I say, we are just using it as a wash. And do the same for the other boot. And get some more onto this here. And right, what do we do with that rock is the question. What should we do with the rock? Well, I'll tell you my thoughts on what you do with the rock. We should paint it like a rock. So, let's take a good bit more storm vermin fur, actually. Now, we've got a good amount onto our palette. Let's do a good sweep over this here rock. As you can see, we're not entirely getting every little bit. It's kind of thinned down a little, actually, our storm vermin fur. So at that point, it's going to have a little bit of that there sort of, well, we don't want the green coming through. So let's make sure we get green down over that. Now, let's let that dry for a second while we look at some of our other little bits. So, rocks typically don't just sit like rocky, you know? They actually start growing stuff on them, don't they? Yes, they do, is the answer I'm looking for. Yes, they do. So what we're going to do is we are going to take little bits. We're going to start off with some Death World Forest on our little brush, and we're going to start doing little sort of dabs of stuff. Right, so a little bit dabbed on. We don't want a nice thick coverage or anything. We want it just to look like a dirty grey, like that sort of thing. Now, if you're familiar at all with a naturally occurring thing, which for years and years and years and years and years, and I kid you not when I say this, I mean for a long, long time, I used to call it lichen. Or no, sorry, I used to call it lichen. Because I always thought it was like, oh, it's like lich, and I believe it's actually called lichen. I believe so. But I'm probably wrong. I don't know. All I know is it's a very cool thing. So all it is basically fungus. Like little tiny microbial little bits that grow on stuff. And some of it is around about the colour of Dorn yellow. Some of it is more vibrant and is almost the colour of like Flashgit's yellow. And then some of it, occasionally you'll see, has more orangey colour and is almost more like Lugganath orange. So we're going to start with a couple of different bits, and for this here I don't want this to be thinned down, I want this to be clumpy, I want this to be growing, you know? So why wouldn't we let it grow? We are going to go straight from this ball. Dorn yellow. A little bit. We are going to do, and I know, heretical to see, but we are in fact doing it. We're doing it straight up to model. And we're trying like a circular motion on this here face because we want it to look, we want it to have bits where it's, you know, not exactly a pleasant looking thing, because lichen isn't always a very pleasant looking thing. Sometimes, particularly with the, I'm more a fan of like the sort of orangey types of lichen you would see growing. I prefer those, the more autumnal shades. But let's get the tiniest little bit, there we go, of Flashgit's yellow. And we're gonna have it be the bit that's growing around the edge of this here. So you can see there's that there sort of thing going. And if we go boom and boom. Now, what we'll do for this here, we want literally only the smallest amount of the orange on our brush. And what is that for, you may wonder? Well, because we're going to dab the orange and you can see it's almost faded away to nothing. But there's a couple of little points where there's little bits of orange still showing. So let's take another little bit of the orange. We'll actually be a little bit more liberal this time. A little bit more liberal with it. dab it on like this. And there we go. We almost have like a lichen sponge there. So that's our little thing growing there. Now we just take a little bit of the grey, mix it with a little bit of the white, thin it down a bit, and now we just try and dab that over, just to try and separate the colours a bit. Et voila! We have kind of a lichen effect going on. Now, what should we use as a shade for that? Well, we can go, you're the only one here. Hey NJ, how are you going? Hopefully you're having yourself a wonderful little week. Yeah, we're all about chilling. That's our main thing. So we're just actually trying to do a little bit of... Ooh. Aha! Yes, we are trying to do a little bit of practice on our Kasrkins. First time I've painted ones like this, so we've kind of done an okay-ish job of the camouflage, in my opinion. We are trying to do a little bit of work and learn how to paint rocks, interestingly. And we're just using shading at the minute. We're going for a shade of Mortarian Grime, because I figure Mortarian Grime is probably going to be a very good little colour for adding on to rocks on a sort of foresty world. And you can see here we've got a little bit of lichen growing on this here rock, and that there. Well, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. I will show you what I mean by okay-ish, because I'll show you the one I did before, which was much more rushed. This was one I did on Saturday just to see how stippling worked, because I hadn't done stippling before really. And he has a much more... It's almost like the Aliens Colonial Marines kind of one. You know, like the United Star Colonial Marines, or whatever you call them in the Aliens franchise. It's more of a camouflage like that. Whereas when I look at this guy, it's almost more of a sort of Swedish camo. The thing I'm most proud of him on, or like proud on this guy of, though, is the eyes. Like his eyes look like they're actually looking at something, which is very rare for me to be able to get eyes to actually look like anything at all. So we're just going to try and actually do that little tidying up. I think we did manage to tidy it up. He looks like he's looking at something. Hey, thank you very much for the follow. Greatly appreciated. Yeah, in terms of like getting the sort of camo effect and everything, I'll show you what I did before to get this broader one. Was I had, where's the shit brush that I don't care about? The sacrificial brush. Here's one of my sacrificial brushes. So I literally was just taking a little bit of ink onto it, and then I was like wiping a bit off, and then I was doing like a stippling effect on like this here sort of a thing. So it's kind of like a dry brush, but kind of also like stippling. So this here was the sort of thing I was doing before, but the problem was I got the ratios wrong, and that ended up where I put a little too much brown onto this guy's pants and everything, onto his pants and his armor and all of that there. Whereas now I'm going for a different sort of vibe, which is using the fine brush and doing smaller little bits. So looking at this guy, for example, we can probably add another little bit of, yeah, let's add another little bit of our Kasrkin flesh, which is our armor one here, and we'll just add paint strokes onto the armor. That sort of, when you add a few of them, it doesn't separate it out much. I like the army theme. I do. I'll show you an example of, so this is my second set that I've ever really sort of painted. I'll show you the ones I'm proudest of from before. Where is he? Right, over here. Where are our guys? I'm looking for, I have one specific Kriegsman who I was very happy with. So we have the likes of this here guy from my previous set of ones that I did, which you can see was, you know, a okay job I did of it. I didn't enjoy it as much. I did like the fact that I actually managed to color in the shade of his little grenade in a different color and all. But I did this more as a desert camo exactly. Oh, thank you very much for the roses. That's greatly appreciated. I have no idea what the heck those are. But thank you. I think that's the first time I've ever actually received anything like that on TikTok. I am mostly, like, in case like it wasn't obvious, I'm more of a Twitch and YouTube kind of one. But greatly appreciated. Thank you very much. Hopefully you're having yourself a wonderful week and all of that there. I'm just trying to learn like this whole TikTok ecosystem of stuff because, you know, streaming is something I thoroughly enjoy, although it's not something I always get time to do. I'm trying to be a little bit better at it this year. I mean, hell, at the minute in work, we're in the middle of like a really serious, big serious thing with got to make sure all the money is ready to go out the door, all the stuff allocated to the right people because I work in music publishing. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, still got the evenings where I'm able to sit down and enjoy myself, go through things like that there. I'm working on this kind of stuff, which is like our sub-assembly paints that we're doing, as you can probably guess. And just generally enjoying getting into it. So if you're like obviously a big fan of Warhammer and all, then at that point, awesome. Glad you're enjoying Warhammer. Aside from that, other stuff that we do on my channels and all, which I've got like the Twitch, I've got YouTube, and I have the, what do you call it? There is a name for it. It's not just called the, what do you call it? Twitch, YouTube, and TikTok. Obviously. Shiza. Yeah, I'm smart, I swear. I swear I'm smart. I also play a wide variety of games, so last night we just wrapped up a little bit of Command and Conquer. We were playing through Command and Conquer 3 Tiberium Wars and doing GDI infantry only. You can see here we're starting on, we're going to do one more little guy tonight and get him sort of reasonably prepped. This guy here will do a little bit more of this sort of, less of a unicolor sort of thing. We're going to try and have a little bit more green in this guy's armor and just brush stuff across. But aside from that, holy mercy, Mary Mother of God, thank you very much for that. I greatly appreciate those, but also at the same time, like, please don't ever feel obligated that you need to like be gifting and donating and anything like that there, because as I was saying, I do work full-time and everything. I'm very lucky that I work in a field that I actually have a tremendous amount of interest in, work with some incredible people that I absolutely love working with, all that kind of stuff. So please don't ever feel that there is an obligation or necessity or anything to donate. But I greatly appreciate that you are showing those kinds of kindnesses. But you want to? Yeah, well, as long as it's one of the things that you want to do. Like, I will never tell people don't do what they want to do, unless of course it causes harm to others, but also at the same time, never ever feel like there is any financial incentive or like financial requirement where a person has to gift or donate towards like anything that I do. If there is ever points where you're just like, hey, you know, bills are tight this month, then please, for the love of God, spend your money on you. Everyone deserves to spend their money on little bits of happiness for them instead. So, but I greatly appreciate that you're choosing to share some of that with me. Very kind of you. So we can see here we've got a little bits more of these here things going. We've got little bits of that going. Lovely. Let's get a little bit more Lauren Forest on. And we're going to try and actually dab, and let's see if we dab and swipe, a little bit more, and we'll do another dab and swipe. Whoop, 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 whoop. And here we go, boom, and up, and boom, up. Right, so there we go. That's reasonable amount sort of done on that. Okay, so maybe what we do now is we're going to get some of the brown ones to do. You have to go. That is not a problem at all. I'm very glad I was able to give you a little bit of enjoyment tonight. Thank you very much for the follow. Thank you very much for all of those wonderful gifts. Very kind of you to do. And hopefully you have yourself a wonderful either rest of your Wednesday, start of your Thursday, or just have a wonderful however long until we see you next time. Take care of yourself, have a wonderful week, and bye-bye. Yeah, that's, wow, holy mercy. I've never, like, TikTok throws me off, sometimes throws me off. I am definitely going to try and get more into this sort of painting side again, just because we have had, well, not really luck. I've been enjoying myself is the more important thing. I've been enjoying myself with painting these kinds of schemes, learning how to do these different things, and just generally taking it a little bit slower on our paint jobs and seeing what all we can get done. You know, it's nice to just sit back, relax, enjoy yourself, paint whatever you're fancying painting, because for a while I was just forcing myself to try and paint lots and lots of different stuff. What I will do in a minute is I will show you some of the other things we have worked on painting before, some of the models I am most proud of, some of the ones where I feel that definitely stuff could be done better, and ideas of what we're going to look at doing in future ones. Like this here, for example, all of this desert camo stuff. Let's... Okay, right. So, there we go. A little bit more of the Kasrkin flesh getting painted onto ones. So there we go. These here, we're getting a reasonably good representation of sort of sticks and all coming through on the armor. Yeah, kind of enjoying this. So, we're going to leave off on that there for the Kasrkin flesh for now. And we're going to switch over instead and start doing our lighter wood tones, which we're going to be using Baneblade Brown for. So, little tiny dabs of stuff on here. And we're just trying to get general little sort of pops of the lighter wood in. So this here camo pattern, really, we're going for like almost a 4-color camo on it. And a little bit more onto the brush. We'll load a little bit on there. A little bit faint onto there. Little bits onto here, boom, and boom, a little bit of that. So, let's see, how does that look in general for a camo pattern? I like that for a camo pattern. That is, yeah, I like it. So, let's take some of our heavily thinned down Militarum green, and we're going to brush that over just the entire thing. Yeah, so we want it to catch absolutely everything on the model, really. We want it going all over the little bits here, because we want it to color the camo almost, it's almost, because of the way it's thinned down, it was almost slightly yellowed, which you can see there. So it also, because of that, I think gives a nice change to the color, and it really highlights out those little changes in the camouflage. So let's go ahead and brush our brush off, and hey, good stuff. Oomph. Now we've got those done. We need wag flesh. Why do we need wag flesh? Well, we need it for the boots. The boots need to be booted. So, the boots, we are going for a darker green than the rest of it, which is why we're using wag flesh. A little bit of this here on, and we'll try and push this across the boots a little bit more. And boom. So, yep, we're starting to see a little bit of brush separation here, which isn't ideal, but we can fix that. So, there you can see the difference between his boots and his breeches. Make sure we just get onto here to do a similar sort of thing. And brush it down. Good-ish sort of coverage on the back. Flip it over and we'll get, oh, let's do the front and the rest of the boot. And there we go. So his boots are now a darker shade. We will wash over those with another little bit of Militarum green. And yep. A little bit more of this, and that's lovely how that's come out. Another little bit here, just a generally even sort of wash on it. And now you can see, there we go. So we've got those done. Wash off this brush and be sure to give it a nice dry. There we go. Lovely. Now, we need Lauren Forest because we're using that for 3 different elements on each person's armor. We're using that for the knee pads, so there, that's 1 knee pad done. And lovely, 2 knee pads done. Not the brightest of differences, but you know what, we'll actually add another little layer onto this here knee pad, just because it feels like it could use it to really stand out. Et voila! Another one there, and let's get another little bit on here. So, that's the Lauren Forest done on the knee pads, and we also need to do the helmet. So, helmet is an entire thing for us to do. It's going to require a decent-ish little coverage. Let's make sure we get that coverage around it. And okie dokes. So, there we go. Helmet is covered. Now, face time! Make sure we load a good amount onto our brush. So, that was not nearly enough to our brush. Let's try and get as much as we can across this. This is going to be a game of many layers, isn't it? I think this is going to require many layers. So, another little bit of this. And we're just trying to slowly build it up to where his face is not green. That's our important thing. He shouldn't have a green face. And we're slowly working towards that. So, push it down in. His teeth are going to end up being green, I'm pretty sure. Or not green, yellow, sorry. So let's try and make sure we get into these top sections as well. Because very important. And right, we get under his chin. Nice wash over there, and now I think this looks reasonable. Right, so there we go. Now, this is the tricky bit. The eyes. So, right. Got a little bit we have to tidy up on the eyes. We have to tidy up the bits where it should be flesh tone, but first things first. Pupils. Right, one pupil done. Do the other. I'm probably blocking the way quite emphatically. Oh wow. Oh wow. We got it. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. That is 2 eyeballs. No, we just need to make sure we get. Just try and make sure his brow is done, and there we go. Lovely. Absolutely lovely. So, maybe for his teeth, we're just going, I know, unprofessional, straight from pot to model, but wow, those are very vibrant yellow teeth. I think maybe we need to mix a little bit of gray into there. So, tiny bit of this yellow mixed with the gray. And okay, that I can work with. And what we need to do is mix a little bit of the brown with a little bit of the darker brown. Okay, why are you so liquid? I think my brush was just very liquid there. So we'll take a little bit of brown, combine it with, brush off a little bit of that, and now we have our lip color. A little bit of brown and all together. A little bit over this way. And okay, not exactly our bestest. Wonder how does it look? Can we? Yep, no, that's as close in as we can get. And let's see if we switch this off, bring the light color down. Okay, so this guy definitely doesn't have healthy teeth. But well, do you expect a soldier on the front line too? Not really. So let's just do some of the little bits for their things. Right, I want Mephiston red for the little sensors that are going to be red, because they will have some, undoubtedly. Oh wow, this is separating like mad. There we go. So, just pop a little bit onto our wet palette. Yep, we'll dab those little bits down and make sure we get these little bits highlighted. Okay, so there's two buttons, red and so they're all going to be red on these here, of varying shininess. There's 1 and 2. Both of those have the same. Now, for this guy here, we can try and... Yep, we can. Lovely stuff. So we want to try and paint these little bits here. So he's got that painted on his helmet. Lovely. Got that. Let's try and ensure the little insignia here is the same. So, yep, his insignias are done. Let's get another little bit here. And we're doing your insignia. And voila, the insignia is taken care of. And right. I think for a little added pizzazz to this guy's armor, well, not even necessarily pizzazz, we need to just do the trim on his cape. The trim is just going to be Lauren Forest the whole way around. So yeah, I'm on a little bit more of this. Oomph. Onto that. Just make sure we get up and around. Another little bit. We can't have any camo come through on these bits, so we gotta actually load up a decent amount at some parts where we painted the camo on. So, right, we've got these little bits. And we can just flip this around now and up a bit down there. Now, for some of these other little bits, just want to add the faintest little bit of Lauren Forest along the edges here, just to try and edge highlight. Problem was that little bit we added a little too much there. That's still okay. So yep, you can see his coat looks reasonably okay. Now, let's do the yellow lights on some of these here. So, this guy, want a little bit of that off the wet palette, or like onto the wet palette, just so we have something to run with, and we're... Ooh. So, there's his little thing, and then we can do this guy's thing here. And lovely. Two fellas, both with armor and all that done onto them. And just to try and sort of accent a little bit, we're going to just do the very faintest little bit of wag flesh on the bottom of the knee pads. So let's try and see if we can get this right. There we go. So we have this guy who stood on a rock which is growing lichen. And then we have this other guy who's not. But all of the little pouches and everything that we have to do on them, we're going to do those now, actually. So here we go. There's these ammo pouches being done. Lovely. 2, and then we've got this third one over here. Yeah, well, you can't entirely see it clearly. Let's lift this up. So, a little bit of this. And we want to try and get these here a little bit done on his pouches. Et voila. Three pouches done. And now, what color for the belt? Well, I think go for Kasrkin flesh. So there is a little bit more onto the back end. A little bit more. Now, tiny bit extra onto here. And let's try get a little bit of this. A little bit more, one tiny little bit. Did it work? Kinda, and kinda. Lovely. So, we just drop this here down. And maybe his thing is, let's do Lauren Forest for this little skull thing here. A little bit watery, I see. So let's try and soak up. And voila. Now, this guy here, lovely. So, he's not quite ready to hunt some Necrons. He's currently unarmed, but he's at least camouflaged. And he has a very grumpy looking face. let's try and get a little bit of trying to get a little bit into there, and yeah, his face looks a little bit more reasonable now. So what we're going to do with these guys is we're just going to give them a little bit of flesh tone is the last little bit. So for both of these guys, we're going to use a single tiny little piece of Reichland flesh shade. And then that's going to be us for the evening. And then I can take my camera down and I can get some photographs. La fotografia. So, here we go. Let's load a good amount onto our brush. Another good amount onto the brush. And let's load some more for top end of the face. And I believe so. Yeah, there we go. One grumpy looking fella there. Very grumpy looking. And who knows, maybe I'll use a tiny little bit later on down the line. Tiny little bit of something like, ooh. There would be a great idea if I put a little bit of red tinge onto it. Now, this guy here, you've got your gas mask thing that we need to not be overdoing. So this guy here. And lovely. Another very grumpy looking fella there. So his flesh tones are done. Realized we didn't do his belt or his axe. So that's the front side of his bit done. Yeah, the back side belt done. A little bit more. And that's fine. The interesting bit is going to be the grenades. We don't want the grenades to be the same color as his pouches. So we're going to have to actually come up with a compromise on that. On. And there we go. So that's those pouches done. Now, maybe what we have to do for this here, I think if we keep the grenades largely the same, but I think we need to paint the core on them differently. And by the core, I mean those bottom bits and the pins and the release handle, or whatever you call it. The thing that when you let go, the handle flies off, and that's what ignites the fuse. Because pulling the pin doesn't actually necessarily do the thing. So, go. There we go. That's 2. And we just make sure these here are done. And I think, from the looks of it, that's 2 active grenades. So lovely. Now we just do the Lauren Forest bit on his skull. Use brush to absorb up excess water. Et voila. So, here's one of our little fellas. Very happy with him. And very happy with him. So, righto, we are going to wrap it up there for the evening. Thank you very much for stopping in and watching and everything. Jeepers, 739 likes on the old TikTok. Thank you very much if you've dropped a like. Thank you very much for the diamonds, they're apparently called, NJ. For, yeah, the one that was watching that was on their shift. Hopefully you've been enjoying yourself in the background. In the meantime, I will be back on Friday afternoon, where we will be playing a little bit of Fallout 4. Then Friday evening, we're doing some, what do you call it? Some Red Dead Redemption 2. So, meantime, take care of yourselves. It has been an absolute pleasure painting for you, and I'm going to leave you off with a little look at our results for today. Take care of yourselves, have a good one, and I'll see you on Friday.